Our country is Pakistan. The capital is Islamabad. The population is 182.1 million as of 2013. The region is South Asia. Some of the vulnerabilities Pakistan faces is flooding, droughts, pollution, heat waves, and cyclones. Opportunities Pakistan faces: afforestation and the world's largest solar farm.
Hi, my name is Luke. I am a news anchor here with Pakistan Live, and we're going to be discussing some of the climate change issues that Pakistan is currently facing, and also some of the possible outcomes that will happen in the next weeks, months, and years to come if these issues are not resolved. But for now, we're going to talk about some of the vulnerabilities, opportunities, and ways to overcome the potential outcomes that are here that Pakistan is struggling currently. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jeremy, our vulnerabilities expert, and he's going to go more in depth from there. Jeremy?
All right, thanks, Luke. Tonight we're going to talk about some of the vulnerabilities that Pakistan is facing and how we can change some of them. Some of these problems include flooding, droughts, extreme weather, and pollution. The frequency of flooding has increased substantially over the last 5 years because of melting glaciers and rainfall. This is causing unsafe environments, especially around the Indus River where the sea level has risen. The UN has rated the floods as the greatest humanitarian crisis, and Pakistan spent $16 billion toward their repair and prevention.
कर रहा है जो तू 2 दिन का ये सफर है मंजिल तेरी खबर है. Oppositely, parts of Pakistan are vulnerable to droughts as well. Specifically in the Tharparkar district, rain does occur, but they don't have an efficient way of storing it. On top of this, the people of this district are very poor and isolate themselves. Pollution is another large problem in Pakistan recently. The pollution rates are 2 times higher than the world average. Such large amounts are caused by a lack of environmental protection policies that regulate it. The frequency and magnitude of heat waves are also on the rise. The highest temperature recently recorded was 113 degrees Fahrenheit in June of 2015, where 2,000 people died of heat exhaustion. Heat waves also tend to cause electrical system overloads, which leaves many people vulnerable. Cyclones and extreme storms are also up. As you can probably tell, these storms cause millions of dollars of damage and many people their lives. Areas such as Gwadar, Washuk, and Karachi are most prone.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeremy. That was a lot of great information that you just provided with us there, and I definitely learned a lot from all the vulnerabilities.
Opportunity number 1 Pakistan faces. In an article written by Story Hinckley from the Christian Science Monitor, there is news that the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, KP, one of Pakistan's 4 provinces, is targeting deforestation. Under KP's ruling, Party Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, the Billion Tree Tsunami Project has been working to save Pakistan's forest since June 2015 through a two-pronged approach: prevent future deforestation and rectify past damages done by planting 1 billion saplings by the end of 2017. Effects that will have on climate change: less landslides, more trees available to absorb the carbon dioxide absorbing trees that will help decrease the strength of landslides. With trees available to hold the soil and absorb water, the excess rain wouldn't be able to easily push exposed soil down a mountainside. Number 2 Pakistan faces. In an article written by Zofine Ibrahim from thirdpole.net, who works with understanding Asia's water crisis, quote, there was said to have been plans that a Chinese companies planned on building a massive solar power station in the Punjab desert. The project seems to be the most effective way of solving Pakistan's energy crisis. The solar park will also shrink Pakistan's carbon footprint by displacing about 57,500 tons of coal burn and will reduce emissions by 90,750 tons every year.
And from here, I'm going to phone in Kristin here, and she's going to talk a little bit about the economy before and after the Industrial Revolution, deforestation, and also the history of fossil fuels and current emissions in Pakistan. So without further ado, Kristin, will you take over from here?
This is Kristin, and I'm going to be talking about the economy in Pakistan before and after the Industrial Revolution, the history of our fossil fuels and our current emissions today in Pakistan, and also forest degradation and deforestation in Pakistan. Before the Industrial Revolution, Pakistan was civilized by the Indus Valley. It was the first settlement in Pakistan from 3500 BC to 1800 BC. The citizens of the civilization practiced agriculture, domesticated animals, and they traded. Britain had control over Pakistan until 1947, until they gained independence. Post-Industrial Revolution, initially after their independence, Pakistan's economic growth rate averaged 5.82%. The manufacturing industry took off at a 8.51% growth rate. Manufacturing took over, and this took a toll on agriculture, and the natural resources began to be used quicker. Pakistan cultivated an irrigation area, but the population became poorer because of the lack of ability to keep up with the rural population. Fossil fuel emissions in Pakistan were steadily growing until 2007. It hit its highest point of fossil fuel emissions in 2007, where it reached about 159,000 kilotons of fossil fuel emissions. Since 2007, though, emissions have been slowly decreasing in Pakistan, with their most recent measure in 2013, which was about 145,000 kilotons of fossil fuels. Pakistan currently ranks number 92 on a list of 137 countries with the most fossil fuel emissions. So their fossil fuel current emissions are relatively low compared to other countries. Deforestation and forest degradation is a big problem in the area of Pakistan. It's another way that natural resources are being depleted in Pakistan. Less than 5% of Pakistan's total area is under forest, which should be an alarming rate on its own. The rate of deforestation is 1.5%, which is also a very high and alarming rate. Efforts aimed at combating deforestation in Pakistan and increasing the forest area around the country have failed to yield the desired results due to the gaps in policymakers' information.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Kristin. Thanks for giving us all that information. And from here, we're actually going to hand it off over here to Crystal, and she'll be talking a little bit about the dominant lifestyles in Pakistan, solutions and trade-offs to some of the climate change issues, and then also the vulnerable populations are affected by some of the climate change issues currently happening here. So without further ado, Crystal, we'll pass it over to you.
Okay, so here is Yifan Wei, and you can call me Crystal for your convenience. And I'm going to introduce the dominant lifestyle in Pakistan, and also the solution and trade-offs of the climate change, and also the vulnerable populations. So I'm going to introduce the dominant lifestyle in Pakistan. The rich lifestyle in Pakistan have big difference than the average lifestyle. The rich people can have unlimited power supply. They can have big stock of the grocery at home, but the poor people have affected from the tourism that they have trouble with the women rights, inflation, unemployment, or something like that. Thus, the rich people have a very high carbon footprint other than the poor people. For the solution and the trade-offs, they are going to limit the carbon dioxide emissions, reduce deforestation and replant trees, and other climate financing to help the climate. But that may cause political diversions and may affect the economics, such as the government have to take away from money put into agriculture. For the vulnerable population part, with rising sea levels, it will cost 35 to 40 million native climate refugees, and the climate change will affect the agriculture a lot because of the droughts and floods ruining their crops yield for the seasons.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much, Crystal. Great job. And we got some breaking news here. Victor is on the other line here, and he's going to talk a little bit about the political stance on climate change and also Kyoto and some of their implications that they're going to have on climate change as well. And yep, he's telling me a lot about the future and possible hurdles that Pakistan has as well. So stay tuned. He's going to take it over here right after the commercial break.
Our boat was tied up, but it broke loose. My wife tried to get it under control, but the force of the water pulled it out into the rushing waters. Then the boat capsized, and we were fighting for our lives. My 3 boys knew how to swim, but my 2 daughters couldn't. They both drowned.
Nobody here calls it climate change, but the fishermen clearly sense that something has gone wrong.
Floods like that are actually unusual here, but we've had heavy flooding every year since 2010. They cause a great deal of damage. The weather has changed. The summers are much hotter.
To have a safer place to sleep, Mustafa recently built a hut on land. But this year's floods even reached the new shelter. He doesn't know what else he can do to protect his family, and he doesn't expect help from the authorities. Not far away is Kot Adu, a city of about 500,000. For several years, it's faced a repeated threat of flooding, even though the Indus River is 20 kilometers away. The levees were no match for the catastrophic flood of 5 years ago, says environmental activist Mohin Akhtar.
Soon after the 2010 flood, the authorities started raising the dikes and barriers. The retention basins you see back there were rebuilt and their dikes reinforced with rocks. That was supposed to make them strong enough to withstand the water pressure. Almost all the dams needed to protect Kot Adu and the settlements here in the region have now been refurbished.
About 1,000 kilometers south in the Indus Delta, the effects of climate change are also being felt. Ghulam Khatri is inspecting a project in which the government and activists are trying to soften the impact of climate change on the Delta region. Mangroves are being planted to keep the sandbanks between the Indus River and the Arabian Sea from eroding away.
The frequency of the cyclones, the frequency of the sea rise now increases. Mangroves are the shield or the safeguards of any high waves, cyclones. These are the shields for the communities. Even the land or the soil is also just tied with the roots. So this is why the mangroves is more important with the marine ecosystem.
At first, progress was slow, but this year additional funding was provided, and now 150,000 hectares of mangroves are in place. 10,000 people live on the sandbanks among the mangroves. The fishermen are trying to adapt to the increasing severity of the flooding. More and more houses here are being raised onto pilings.
We normally build our huts right on the silt, but in recent years, storm tides have been washing over everything, and when the water recedes, it takes the silt with it. We were constantly repairing the foundations. Pilings are much better.
Muhammad Ismail says his house survived the last flood. He hopes his children will also have a future here on the Indus Delta.
How's everybody guy doing tonight? So tonight we're going to talk about Pakistan's political platform on climate control. Also talk about some of the Kyoto and the implications that it has on Pakistan. Follow up some of the projects that they're looking into doing as far as the RED Plus and also the CDM. And then also be talking about the recommendations that they have and also some financial recommendations. Back to you, Luke.
Pakistan's political platform on climate change. July 1993 through June 1994, energy sectors by far the highest CO2 emissions with a share of 81% of total CO2 emissions. Energy-related emissions rose by 94.1% between 1990 through 2005. In 2005, Pakistan contributed 0.45% of global total in energy-related CO2 emissions. Kyoto and its implications on Pakistan, future and hurdles. In 1997, Kyoto Protocol was adopted at a conference of the parties of UNFCCC in Kyoto, Japan. This protocol restricts the industrialized countries and those in transition to a market economy agreed to limit or reduce their emissions. The Pakistan government has taken steps to reduce population by environmental concerns are not among the top priorities. People are rather worried about unemployment, poverty, and a sharp decrease in the standard of living and day-to-day survival. Hurdles: A. Awareness barriers. B. Economic barriers. C. Financing barriers. And D. Policy and regulation barriers. RED Plus project in Pakistan is financially supported by UNDP through one UN Joint Program on Environment. RED Plus program initiated a series of awareness-raising, sensibilizations, and capacity-building workshops at the district level in Pakistan. This included consultations on issues pertaining to deforestation and forest degradation, as well on existing and potential tools to address them. CDM projects: alternative and renewable energy, energy efficiency, fossil fuel co-generation, generation of electricity and other energy jointly, electricity generation to produce heat, land use, land change, and forestry, waste management.
In 2014, Pakistan submitted 6 NAMAs, or Nationally Appropriate Mitigation Actions, to the UNFCCC. These 6 NAMAs proposed mitigation that considered the economic growth, health, education, and the environment of Pakistan as a country. Some things that these 6 NAMAs included were energy-efficient lighting in all sectors, harnessing municipal waste to generate electricity, and many more. The Kyoto Protocol wanted to lower Pakistan's dependence on fossil fuels via renewable energy sources. However, the Minister of State for Environment, Malik Min Aslam, urged the Shaukat Aziz cabinet to ratify in 2005. This cabinet later chose to work as a designated national authority, and they plan on reducing their vulnerability to climate change through different steps. These different steps include boosting those renewable energy resources, cutting electric power loss during transmission, more efficient water use in agriculture to reduce diesel-powered pumping, minimizing farm tillage to keep carbon in the soil, and using manure to generate biogas.
Recommendations: when flooding occurs, levy the water into a dam to reduce the effect the droughts have when they occur. Help agriculture industry by having more water readily available, and limit the industrial boom. Limit industrial pollution by creating a rewards system for those companies that save the most amount on greenhouse gas emissions. Financial recommendations: increase agriculture industry and create jobs in irrigation engineering for construction of a levee or flood system. Gain support from REDD Plus project. Provide courses for civilians to become educated on how to reduce energy consumption.
Reducing the effects of droughts would directly aid those who work in the agricultural sector. These people usually include women and indigenous people. Limiting and reducing pollution will allow those in urban environments to suffer less from polluted resources. Illegal logging and destruction of forestry have opened more land use for agriculture. This is an advantage to 35% of the population that is unemployed and are below the poverty line. Since 1930, Pakistan has been on an economic development program to promote metropolitan construction and establish universities to stimulate growth in the country.
As the final, here is some of our financial suggestions. For our country, we should keep the agriculture industry going as normal, but reduce logging of trees to help start a new ecological environment. And also, the government should let the people know how the climate change affects our life and also to affect our future. The government should to reduce unemployment, stimulate jobs by ending the illegal logging, educate people on policy for climate change, and imply the importance of reducing emissions.